Right, a little bit more work on the Lancer. I'm going on to step 2, part 2 of step 2. You've got the exhaust, which is B33. That's painted in silver and aluminium for the back part of the exhaust. It actually tells you to paint it in sky grey, but I decided because it's exhaust, it's got to be silver. So you've got silver for there. I sprayed this on with remember that cheap, smelly silver spray paint that I did for the runabout base. So I sprayed that all the way down, and then I just got my 36199 aluminium and painted that on the back of there. You can see the slight difference. Then you've got that rear member bracket there. That's 2 halves. You've got B6, which is the top part, and B5, which is the bottom. That's glued in. So B6, you got a pinhole there, pin and a pinhole, pin and a pinhole, pin and pinhole, pin and pinhole, and you just glue that together, and that's all it is. Just gluing those together. So that's that ready. Spray painted down the white. Then you've got these 2 brackets here. One's E13 and one's E14. So there's E13. Oh, these are still on the sprue. I've painted these on the sprue. So you've got the gloss black, the blue for 13, and for 14 you've got gloss black and red. And then that little bit bracket at the back there, which is white. So now that all those are painted, I'm just waiting for the paint to dry, and then I can assemble these bits for part 2 of step 2. Right, welcome back. A bit more work on the Lancer. I've now done part 2 of step 2 and mounted some bits on. So first things first, you got the exhaust. That mounts on first. The exhaust mounts onto the back of the engine there. It also mounts in that recessed area there. There's a mounting hole and tab there. It then comes down, rests on this back wall here, and glues into that notch there. There's a notch and a hole. I had to widen that hole slightly, and then that sits on the bottom. The exhaust pipe, the exhaust exit pipe itself, that sits on the rests on the bottom of the chassis. Once that was done, then you've got the completed B5 and B6 that sits on top of the exhaust pipe. That mounts in that pinhole there and in that pinhole there with the tabs. Yeah, that's them. So then went in dead easy. I had to widen the hole slightly again, but that's gone in easy. And then you've got the E13 and E14. The mounting, there's a little square hole there that pushes in there. And just underneath there, there's a little raised mounting tab with the pin inside the actual E-part arms. You have to plonk that in first, line that up, and then push that into the square hole. Same for this side. Push the mounting hole in there, the tab into the mounting hole, then you push that square tab in. And then those little mounting rings should sit to the rear of the hole, because that's where the suspension arms are going to go in from the next part. But I'm getting there slowly. Moving on with the Lancer, it's now time for the rear uprights, which the main part is E17. So this is E17. You've got the prop shaft leading into this like wheel turning assembly with the linkage arms and the plug-in hubs which house the 2 brake housings. But like I said, E17 is just that one part. Then you've got the top of the housings, which is C21, which is the red one, and C20, which is the blue one. So you just cut them off the sprue and then glue them straight on to E17. So what I did, where E17 was connected to the hub here at the back, I cut that off, and then I cut a bit of the sprue off to make room, sorry, cut the bit of sprue off there to make room for the C20 and 21. And all I did, there's a couple of holes, there's a mounting hole there, I think. Where is it? Yeah, there's a mounting hole there with a peg, and a mounting hole there with a peg on both sides. And then I just pushed them onto place and just let the glue dry. Once the glue dried, then I picked out all the colours. You got the silver, you got the C7 red, the blue, gloss black, the gold mixed in with the silver, aluminium for that bit there, and then gloss black for the main prop shaft. It tells you to paint all this in black, even the connectors, but I decided to paint the connectors in the silver. So that's that. And then you got the brake hubs, which are B18 and B19. Where's my B sprue? There it is. Just bringing it over. Again, with the brake hubs, I painted those in the red. With the brake discs, those are in gunmetal, and it says to paint in blue for the actual discs themselves in the middle. So that's what I've done for that. So all these are now ready to be mounted onto the underneath of the chassis. Right, I'm now going to move on to step 4, which is mounting all the E17 and the various bits and bobs that go with it, with the brake hubs. But one thing I've got what's clear is the E21 and E22 suspension coils. So much like on the front, I painted the actual spring coils themselves in the red. The actual rest, the inside of the coils are in silver. All this is aluminium, and then those two little tubes there are the gold and silver mixed together. So that's ready for that. Also, I've got this part here, which is taking that off there because the clip's covering it, which is E18. That's going to be painted in white. I think that's some kind of support, and I've already put that on. Just spray painted it in the white. There's a mounting hole there and a mounting hole there. I had to widen those slightly and plonk them in, because that has got to go on before the E17 assembly, which is, like I said, the brake hubs and the prop shaft. So now all these bits are done, like I said, I can now start step 4. Right, I've now completed finally the rear assembly with the prop shaft. Now I apologise in advance, this is going to be a lengthy explanation because there was a lot of work, even though it doesn't look like much. So if you remember from the previous update, I started on step 4 with this E18 armature that had to be glued in first because it sits underneath the prop shaft. So like I said, that's all glued in now. So now the prop shaft, which is the E17 part with the rear assembly, it calls for you to get that little mounting notch on the back of the prop shaft into a little hole, rectangular hole in the back of the engine. You must do that first, because if you don't, none of this will align. So I pushed that little notch into the hole in the back of the engine, pushed that into place and lowered the prop shaft into that channel. Once that was done, I can then do all the alignments on these armatures underneath. So you've got the brake hub there, that lines, there's a little mounting notch there that glues into the back of that little circular mounting hole there on the armature. And on this side you've got the blue one, you push that into place, as it says on the plans there. Then once that's glued into place, you've got to align the mounting arm from step 3, sorry, if you remember, the E13 and the E14 which were the black arms, with the E13 was the blue and the E14 was the red for the mounting hole. Right, so underneath there's the E13 with the blue mounting hole with a black arm, so that plugs into the underneath the brakes there. Then you've got the E14 on this side with the red, with the black arm. You push that into place. Turn the pans back over to step 4. That's that there and that there. So that's that alignment done. Once that alignment was done, then I had to put in the shock absorbers stroke suspension. So that was E21 and E22. So you mount those into the little hole channels there, much like on the front one, both sides, and they poke through there with that little hole. So there's your little mounting notch and the mounting hole. Once that was dry, then you have to get the tops here. You got like a little tube with a little hole, and that mounts into the side of the brake hubs on both sides. So there's the red one and there's the blue one, as it says on the plans there. So that's that done. And then last but not least with the alignment, you've got E10, which is that red arm there, and E11, which is that blue arm there, as it says on the second part of step 4. So that's E10 and that's E11. So the first off, you've got this little square hub here, that mounts into a hole there, so you push that down. Then you've got the little eye hole mounting tab of the E10, you push that into place on top of the brake hub. And then on this white armature here, there's a little hole channel there, and there's, on that little silver bit there, there's a notch, quite a long notch, and you push that into place, and you push them down all at the same time, and those align perfect. So that's that done with the E10 and the E11. Right, moving on to this green part here, which is C1, and you mount that arm into place. Now that mounts in, there's a little knot hole there with the square hub, and you push the pin into there on that side. And on this side with that square mounting hole notch there, hub, with a pin, push that into place and let that dry. And last but not least, you've got this clear part here, which is D9. Which is on step 5, that mounts into that rectangular section there on step 4. And then you've obviously got to push that down. So you've got D9, which is a clear part, but it tells you to paint that in black. So for now, I've just glued that into place and let that set. So that's my lengthy explanation of the rear assembly.